Welcome, listeners, to another episode of Negotiation with Alice. Today, I've got Brownell Landrum with us today. Brownell, good day to you.
Good day to you too. Looks like a pretty day where you are.
It is. Please introduce yourself. Let everyone know what it is that you do.
Well, hi, I am Brownell Landrum. I'm the only Brownell Landrum in the world, so it's pretty easy to find me. I'm an author of a bunch of different kinds of books. My first book was nonfiction, which is part of my question, so I'll table that for now. I'm also launching a new series of novels that's about basically a series about a famous couple from history who's reincarnated today to fulfill a prophecy that'll change the world. So it's going to be really fun to see that. And if anybody wants the pre-order, they can do that for 99 cents. I also launched a podcast for sharing stories like with metaphysical messages, because I really think that these kinds of stories, whether they're fictional or factual, can change the world. So always looking for stories for our podcast. It's called The Life is a Trip Reincarnation Stories podcast.
Oh,
So
wonderful. And then we will have all of Brownell's information in the show notes. So for listeners who want to go get her book, we'll have that information set for you. So,
great.
Brownell, what's your question for me today?
Well, one thing that my first book, so it's related to the first book I wrote, and it's called Five Reasons Why Bad Things Happen. And obviously, when people say, oh, things happen for a reason, I literally wrote the book on it. Not only that they happen for a reason, but why they happen. And I had an interesting story that I thought would be really fun for you to kind of delve into with your expertise, because I think what you're doing is just so fabulous and important and fun and great and all these things. So I'm really excited about that. And so I wrote this book about the reasons why bad things happen. And I met Rabbi Harold Kushner many years ago when I first wrote the book. And he is the author of the book, When Bad Things Happen to Good People. So a lot of people, when they hear about my book, they relate it to his book. And he read my book, lovely, lovely, lovely man. And he read my book, but he said, I don't think things happen for a reason. I think it's all random. So my question would be, how do you negotiate between the people who just think everything is random versus the people who really are looking for a why, for why things happen, right? Some people just like, no, it happens, you just deal with it. And some people are like, no, it happened for a reason. So I think that might be fun. What do you think to talk about?
Yes, definitely. I love talking about this because in many ways you can translate what we are going to be talking about today to talking about politics, right? It's the same sort of thing because we're in a time and a place where everyone feels like it's divisive and everyone has polar opposites in terms of their opinions. And so
Right,
it makes
right. It's
any
either you
sense.
believe or you don't believe they happen for a reason. So yeah, exactly. It's
Exactly.
pretty binary.
So I think the best way to approach these kinds of conversations is not one where you think, okay, let me go and convince this person that my way is the right way and let me have my arguments prepared. And instead flip that and go into the conversation with the idea of, let me be really curious about why this person thinks the way they think. And so you want to really go into the conversation asking more questions, but there is a caveat. You want to make sure that you leave all judgment at the door. Because if you show up and you ask questions and you're feeling judgmental, like, yeah, this person doesn't know what they're talking about, or they're wrong clearly, or they clearly are not enlightened, and you have all
Right.
of this like running script in the back of your mind, they're going to pick up on it based on your tone, your gestures, your facial expressions, the words you choose. And so you try to want to go in with an open mind to say, let me just understand this person better. Like, I want to learn all about this person and just leave all the judgment at the door. And then your questions will sound like they're coming from a place of curiosity, right? That you're curious and wanting to learn more. And so it's not going to be necessarily why questions because people feel defensive. If I say, well, why do you believe this? Right.
Ah,
So
yeah.
you want to just go in and just say, like, tell me, like, what made you come to this conclusion? Talk to me more about the evolution of how you got these beliefs and where are you coming from? And then based on their answer, you want to listen to their answer because you don't want to have your next question and your next question and your next question ready so that you can kind of interview them. The next question should be based on their response, right?
Interesting. Interesting.
So you
Yes.
can't really script it except for maybe the first question, because the next question should go deeper based on whatever it is they answer. And so if you listen really carefully, you can figure out, oh, let me ask more about that, or let me ask more about that, right? And then you can really deeply understand. Then once you get to a place where you truly understand where they're coming from, then there will be an opening where you can have the deeper conversations about, why aren't they thinking like you? Or you might think to yourself, you know what? Totally get why they think the way they think, and we can leave it at that.
Right. But at least each person has been heard, I guess is what you're really saying.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, because this issue gets people, I mean, some people get really upset, like, no, you're telling me that I did this to myself and, and all this kind of stuff. And it's more about trying to learn from something so you can turn it into something positive, right? But it's hard when people are entrenched, into those beliefs for sure.
Yes. And, I'm more the believer like you are, where things happen for a reason. But instead of like, I understand some people think like, oh, why did I deserve this bad thing to happen to me? But like you, I feel like all the things that happen to us, whether it's bad or good, number one, I feel like, we're the ones putting the judgment on whether it's good or bad, right? As things just rant.
That
Like,
is so key. That is so key because you can say, oh, I've got this traffic light. It's making me so angry. I'm going to be late. And then you realize you missed a traffic, accident that
exactly.
if you had gotten the light, you would, like it helps to really look for
Exactly.
those signs. Yeah, right. Exactly.
Exactly. Right. And so there's a path. And I feel like we as humans are the only ones who are attributing judgment to say this is a good thing or this is a bad thing. Whereas I think from a universe perspective, it's all neutral. Just things are happening and we are placing our own judgments to say this was a bad thing because, like you said, maybe you missed an accident, you missed getting killed because
Right.
the light was there or what have you. So there are always things that are happening. And I think there's a way for, I think, humans, and I'm sure you will agree, Brownell, that if we can spin everything to a positive, you end up having a more positive mindset. And then that positive mindset translates to better like energy that you're putting out into the world. And then that also like translates to your lifelong longevity.
Right. Well, in fact, what I did after he came back with that response was I actually did some research exactly like you're talking about, and I wrote a preface, added a preface to the book. Albert Bandura, who's actually was from your neck of the woods, from San Francisco area, and he's a famous psychologist, well known, especially in the psychology world. And he basically says that people who believe things happen for a reason are happier than those who don't, because they can assign meaning and they can go, okay, maybe I went through this childhood, but now it's made me more compassionate against people that are going through this, or it maybe made me an advocate, or it made me go this direction. Sometimes I have a new story out that is written what I call from the upstairs. And so there's like a team up there that's like, here's where you are, and here's where this person is, and how do we get these people together? And they're like going crazy, and sometimes they're like border collies knocking us down this road, like we want you to go here, but I want to go there. So, but to me, that's so obvious and fun. Yet there are people who get like seriously upset when you say things happen for a reason. I mean, it like like you're saying, as far as listening, they don't even want to talk about it. They just feel so attacked when that's even brought up as a subject.
So I think once you get to a place of open curiosity and deeper understanding, then you can start talking about the mindset. It's not really the belief. It's all about the mindset,
Oh,
right?
interesting. Yeah.
Because the mindset, what you're trying to promote is a positive mindset about all the things. And so it's not about, are they happening for a reason? Are they just random? It's really about, can we create a positive mindset about everything that happens in our lives so that A, we can create meaning for ourselves, B, we can keep depressive thoughts away, and C, we can live a like more fulfilling life.
Right, and not be a victim, right? Because at the other extreme, it's like, well, I'm a victim because things just keep happening to me and I have no control over them. And certainly we all know about things happening to us that we didn't have any control over, but we definitely have a control over how we respond
Right.
and what direction we take it in. Yeah, absolutely.
So I think a lot of times when people are having these very fierce debates, they're actually debating a topic that may be in this area, but the real thing that's not being spoken and the thing that they're feeling passionate about is something slightly over here, like slightly over. It's not the exact thing. So I think when you are having debates about whether things happen for a reason or they're happening randomly and someone is opposing you, I think what really the root conversation is not about that. It's more about like, should we be having a positive mindset about everything so that we can make meaning of things or not? And so you're probably sensing like, oh, I'm not getting anywhere because you're actually arguing about something that's not the root of the conversation. The root of the conversation is,
Absolutely.
should we be having a positive mindset about everything so that we can attest meaning to things and move forward in a positive way?
That is really, you're right. You're right. It's a whole nother like, do we agree we want to not be victims? Do we agree that we want to take things positively? Can we find that common ground, if you
Yes.
will?
Yes.
And say, okay, if we can agree on that, and then what's the best path forward? You know,
Exactly.
yeah,
And
yeah,
so when you ask the deeper questions, you're going to find out why they believe the things they believe, right? And then at that point in time, then you can start asking questions like, do you think that it's helpful to stay in a negative mindset when these things happen to you? Do you think that that's like the best way to stay? Is that the best way to move forward in your lives is to feel like you're a victim or feel like you have no control of your life? So then you can ask really deeper questions, right? And then they have to think about, well, is that true? Like, should I have a negative mindset? Should I have a victim mindset? Or maybe they think, you know what, Brownell, I actually like being a victim because I don't want to be responsible for my own actions. Or do you understand? Like you're really
I
trying to
do.
get
I do.
into.
In fact, I went through a period of my life where it's like I was learning what that victim mentality felt like. I had a friend in my life, and everything was he was like the walking, talking victim, and it was like he's like, yes, but the world is going to get you, and this is going to happen to you, and this is going to happen to you, and I was like, and there are you get a lot of compassion from some people, like let's join our little victim club, and we can all feel sorry for each other, and sometimes we need that, but long term, that's not the healthy way to get through it, right? I mean, it's to, like you said, try to have more control over your life.
And so as you ask all the questions, you might get to a point where you feel like, okay, now I understand that this person wants to remain in victim mode. And then you know that you don't have to argue the original argument anymore, right?
Right,
Because if they don't want to change to have a positive mentality about the things that happen to them or view it that, hey, because this bad thing happened, that led me to this other more beautiful thing, then you know, like, okay, the conversation's complete. That you don't
right,
have to like force them to believe what you believe, which is things happen for a reason, because you know they would like to remain in victim mode.
right. And a lot of times they think that you're coming from blaming them for what happened, and that's where the script, like you're talking about, you have to get deeper so that they know that you're not coming from that point of view. The book is about 5 reasons. One of them is subconscious sabotage. We don't know what we're doing subconsciously that might bring on certain things to us. But once you start, obviously the book talks about how to get to that clarity. But that's a good example of something like, okay, you didn't necessarily bring it on, but there's a part of you that might have drawn that to you for some reason. Now let's look at the reason, learn the lesson, pass the test, and move on and find, like you said, the silver lining or the positive thing out of it.
Exactly. And then recently I was watching, I think it's a Netflix show, The Secrets of the Blue Zone, like Living to 100. And I think one
Oh,
of the
yeah.
things they talk about is your outlook,
Oh, wow.
right? So if the places in the world where they live the longest, they had positive outlooks on life, right?
Yeah.
So it is a power mindset, a positive mindset is so powerful that it can buy you 15 to 20 years of extra life.
Yeah. And the thing is that we all go through bad things, right? We all know that we've all been through loss of somebody that we cared about, or, you know, financial or whatever, lost ending of a relationship, which I'm sure you know a lot about with what you do through your work. And so how do we address it, right? And for me, the big reason why within the story of the book is that there's something that needs to change, that we're put in a situation to get us to go down a different path. And I'm sure within your work, that's a big part of it, right? It's like, okay, we're trying to negotiate something to figure out a new future for ourselves, right?
Exactly. Exactly. So I think I love that you brought this topic because I think the takeaway that I'd like people to think about is when you're debating, are you actually debating the heart of the issue? Or are you debating something that's slightly removed from the heart of the issue? Because if you're debating what's slightly removed, you're going to feel stuck in the argument because you're not really getting to the root, which is, do we all agree that having a positive mindset will help us move forward happily? Right? I feel like that's
Yeah.
the real discussion. And you can't get to the
Right.
real discussion unless you ask questions first.
Right. Right. That's beautiful. That's really beautiful. This is, yeah, really, really, really helpful. I'm so excited to get to meet you and talk about this, you know, because it's an important topic. I mean, it's kind of universal. You know, we all kind of go through this time figuring out what that is, right? And what these reasons
Absolutely.
are.
Yep, yep, definitely. So, Brownell, if people want to get in touch with you or they want to work with you or read your books, can you give us, I mean, we'll put all the information in the show notes, but what's one
Right.
way that they can reach you?
Well, there are a bunch of things that I'm the only Brownell Landrum in the world. So there's brownelllandrum.com. You can find out about all my different things and all my different books. And I've got a new trilogy coming out with novels that's kind of a metaphysical mystery about a famous couple reincarnated to change the world. So I get into another topic that people like to debate about, whether there's an afterlife or whether we come back again or not. And I just like to write it as fiction because, like, you don't have to believe in time travel to enjoy Back to the Future. You know what I mean? You can still enjoy the stories. So that's something that I would love people to check out. I'm launching it next month, and of course, depending on when they listen to this, but in September 2024. And you know, just find me on Facebook and follow me on social media, and feel free to ask me questions. And you know, just love to engage people on these kinds of topics.
Thank you so much, Brownell. And listeners, please check out Brownell's works, check out her website. And thanks so much for joining us today, everyone. And Brownell, thank you for joining and asking the questions because I do feel like your question is very, very important in that a lot of people will be having these kind of conversations within the political arenas these days. So thanks so much for bringing it. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Okay, until next time, listeners, have a great week.